Hi bookworms, welcome back to my channel, Katie Budge Books Read Aloud. Now today I am not doing a read aloud story, but there will be one coming tomorrow. Today I'm going to be doing a question and answer video. All this week you guys have been sending me your questions and I am here to answer them as best as I possibly can. Thank you to everybody that sent me a question, I really appreciate it. And thank you to the grown-ups for taking the time to send them through to me as well. Really appreciate it. So, if you guys are ready, let's get going with the first question. So my first question is from Buddy, who is 6 years old, and he asks, who was your favourite author as a child? What was your favourite story by them? So my favourite author as a child was a man called Nick Butterworth, and he's still one of my favourite authors now. And he wrote a story called Jasper's Beanstalk, and that was my favourite when I was a little girl. I haven't actually got that book, so I'll put a picture up so you can see what it looks like. And I've now got a huge collection of his books for my children because he writes all the Percy the Park Keeper books. And hopefully on my channel you guys would have seen my read aloud of this story, which is from Nick Butterworth, and it is called One Snowy Night, and that is also one of my favourites. As I got a bit older, I started to really enjoy Roald Dahl books, and I know that you're a fan of his too, aren't you, Buddy? So yeah, that's two of my favourite authors. So when I was little, it was Nick Butterworth, and as I got a bit older, Roald Dahl was definitely one of mine too. So thank you very much for your question, Buddy.
Hi Katie, my name is Daisy and I'm 6 years old and
what are you
writing now?
Thank you for your question, Daisy. What am I writing now? So at the moment I am writing a chapter book. I've never written a chapter book before, so it's for children who can read on their own or children who enjoy having longer books read to them. And it's all about Goldilocks. Now I know you guys know who Goldilocks is and the three bears, and this is a follow-on story. This is what happened to Goldilocks after she went to the bear's house. So I won't give anything away. I'm hopefully bringing it out this year in the summertime, around June, July sort of time. So you can look forward to seeing that. And that is what I'm working on at the moment. So thank you for your question. My next question is from Maisie, who is 8 years old, who has asked me, is it nice being an author? It is very nice being an author. I really enjoy it. I love the process of writing a story. I always get butterflies in my tummy when I think of a story and I start writing it down. I really enjoy going through the process of having a book made, getting the illustrations done and putting it all together. And one of my favourite parts is when I get to receive my book in the post and I get to hold one of my own books. That's an amazing feeling. I love going to different events and different schools and reading my stories and selling my stories and meeting children who have enjoyed reading them and finding reviews of people that have said they really enjoy them. It's fantastic. I love everything about being an author. It's my job and it's one of my favourite things to do. So thank you for your question, Maisie. My next question is from Jude, who is 5, and he asks, where do all your ideas come from? This is a great question. My ideas come from here, there and everywhere. If I think about Percy the Pigeon, that came from when I was washing up one day and this greedy pigeon came down and started eating all the food that I put out for the birds. And I suddenly thought, oh, that would be a really cute story about sharing and the importance of sharing and friendship and taking turns. And then, for example, hug, that came to me in a dream. It was when we had our first lockdown, and at 4 o'clock in the morning I woke up and had in my head about penguins and giving each other different types of hugs, and I saw all the little penguins in my head and how I wanted them to look, and that became a book too. So yeah, my ideas, they come from here, there and everywhere. So thank you very much for your question, Jude.
Hi, Katie. What's your favourite book?
So thank you, Darcie, who is 3, and Freddie, who is 4. You both asked me the same question. What is my favourite book? And I've got it here with me. My favourite book is this one, The Rainbow Fish. And I was given this book when I was 8 years old. So it's nearly as old as me. And you can almost tell because it's falling apart a little bit, but it's my absolute favourite book and I'd never get rid of it. It's what my eldest sister bought for me on my 8th birthday and I've still got it now. I really enjoy the story. It's a lovely book about sharing and happiness and making friends, and I also adore the illustrations. They are so beautiful. If you can see them, they're so bright, and some of them, as you can see, shimmer. And they're so pretty to look at. So yes, this is my favourite book. I had it since I was 8 years old. It's still going strong and I will keep it forever because it's very, very special to me. So thank you guys for your question.
Hello, James' mum. How many books will you have when me and James are grown-ups?
Thank you for your question, Stanley. Now, you would have heard in that Stanley called me James's mum. James is my son. It's actually his birthday today. He's just turned 6. And Stanley is in his class at school and they are really good friends. So thank you for your question, Stanley. And how many books am I going to have by the time you and James are grown-ups? Well, I hope it's a lot more. As you can see here, this is my Moo Cow folder. And this is where all my stories get written down and they get put into this big folder. I've got lots and lots in there, and these will eventually, hopefully, all become books one day. But some of the stories I think of, like Hug, that didn't even make it into this folder. I just thought of it, I wrote it down, and I made it. So with my books in my folder and the books that I just think of in my head, I don't know how many I'm going to have by the time you're older. Hopefully, I would say around 50. I think that's a good number. I've got 10 out at the moment and I'm having 2 more out this year. So who knows? It could be more, it could be less, but I'm going to carry on writing. And when you and James are grown-ups, I'll let you know how many I've got. Thank you for your question, Stanley. My next question is from Lois, who's 8 years old. And she asked, did you read a lot when you were younger? I didn't actually. When I was first learning to read, I didn't really want to sit down and read books. I wanted to go and play and go and get messy in the garden and things like that. My mum really struggled to get me to read anything. So when I was younger, I didn't really enjoy reading. But it's not until I started to get a bit older and I appreciated the stories more and the illustrations and realising how beautiful they all are. And that's when I really started to fall in love with books. And when I could actually read myself, that was when I was really interested in books as well. So yeah, when I was just learning to read, I wasn't really interested, didn't have time for reading books. But as I got older, I definitely appreciated them more. And as you know, I absolutely love them now. And I've got a massive collection of books. You can see some of it in the background in my children's room. So thank you very much for your question, Lois. So my next question is from Alistair, who is 9 years old, and he's actually my nephew. So hello, Alistair. Thank you for your questions. You asked, why did you become an author? So I became an author because I fell in love with writing stories. I caught the bug, as people say. I had to write a story when I was in college, and when I wrote this story, I got such good feedback from it, from my friends and my classmates and from my teachers, that I fell in love with it. And from there, I just started to write more and more and more. And so far I haven't stopped. I've had a lot of hobbies over the years, but writing stories is a hobby that I have never stopped doing and I've never fallen out of love with. I still get butterflies every time I think of a new story, and whenever I get my book that I've written, it's a wonderful feeling. So that's why I became an author, because I fell in love with it. And you also have a second question for me, which is, what part of being an author do you enjoy most? And I've also got Lexie, who is 6 years old, and she asked me, what do I enjoy most about writing books? So they're very similar questions. So I love thinking of the ideas. I love when I get an idea come into my head and I can write it all down. And then I love thinking in my head about what a story is going to look like and how it's all going to come together. And of course, the most important part is, as I say, when I finished my story and it's all put together, I've got all the words, got all the pictures, and I get to have that book delivered to my door, and I get to open a parcel and see my book for the first time, and it's such an incredible feeling. It makes me so happy, and that's why I absolutely love doing it. So that's what I enjoy the most about being an author and about writing stories. So thank you so much for your questions, guys. Go.
Hi Katie, my name's Rosabella, I'm age 7. How did you become an author?
Thank you for your question, Rosabella. Asked me, how did I become an author? So one day I just decided that I didn't want to just keep all my stories in a folder or written down on a piece of paper or on my computer. I wanted to make them into a book. So I went on the internet and I did some research and I found out how I could do that. So I knew that I needed to make sure all my stories were finished and they were edited, which means they're checked for spellings and grammar and punctuation and things like that, and made sure that the story made sense. Wanted to make sure the story was exciting and it had everything in it that I wanted. Then I had to go through and find all the illustrations and an illustrator who could do it for me, or some of the time I do the illustrations myself. And then I put the book together, and there's a website that helps me to do that. And yeah, as long as you work hard, you're determined and you stick at it, anyone can become an author. You've got to try really, really hard. You've got to think of your very best story. You've got to use as much imagination as possible. And then you can go from there. You can make that story into a book, and there's nothing to stop you. There is so much help out there. And I'm always willing to help anybody who wants to make a book. And that's how I became an author. I found people that helped me, and now I love helping other people. I hope that's answered your question, Rosabella. Thank you so much for asking it.
Katie, I'm called Florence, age 9. What's your favourite book that you've written?
So thank you for your question, Florence. You are 9 years old and you asked what's my favourite book that I've written. And that's a lovely question. So one of my favourite books is Slow, Slow Cedric. And one of the reasons for that is because he won an award. It was sent off to somewhere where they give out awards for different books, and he won a Red Ribbon Award. So the children that read it really enjoyed it. They loved the illustrations, they loved the story. So yeah, I'm really, really proud of that one. And I'm also really proud of Cedric because I love the message of the story, and I really took my time with Cedric. I really thought about the message that I wanted to try and convey. I thought about the rhyming that I wanted to use, and although it's an important story with its message, it's also a funny story, and it's nice and engaging. And another reason is the beautiful illustrations that Lauren Galley created. She brought Cedric to life, and I just absolutely love it. So he is one of my favourites. And another one of my favourite stories is Our Feelings. I wrote this quite a few years ago and I didn't really think much of it, but recently I've learned how important this book is and how important it is to share our feelings. We're all very good at sharing our positive feelings when we're feeling happy and excited. We love to share those feelings with people, but for some reason when we're feeling sad or worried, things like that, we tend to not share them, and we really, really need to. It's really important. So I love this book, and it's one of my favourites because of the important message that it sends to children. So yeah, I think they are my top 2 favourite books. So thank you very much for your question, Florence.
Hello, James' mum. How can you write books?
Thank you for your second question, Stanley, which was, how do I write books? And that's a great question. So usually I come up with an idea first. Ideas come to me at very random times. I find my ideas from here, there and everywhere. And then I will write it all down quite roughly. I'll try and think of, normally I rhyme my stories, don't I? I enjoy using rhymes in my stories. So usually I spend time thinking of words that rhyme with each other that I could use in the story. So yeah, I write it all down. I get it all on paper because otherwise I'll forget it and I'm not very good at remembering. And then from there, I will keep going over it and I'll keep checking it, changing it. It's called editing, and that's what I'll spend quite a long time doing, because you need to make sure that it's the best that it can possibly be. And then I also get somebody else to edit it for me just to make sure I haven't missed anything. And then from there, I will look at the illustrations and I'll either try and do them myself or I will find an illustrator to do them for me. I've actually got a Christmas book coming out this year and somebody is doing the illustrations for that, and I'm very, very excited. And then it gets made into a book and then it's out in the world for all you guys to enjoy, and it's so satisfying and it's my favourite thing to do. I love writing stories, I love making books, and I love sharing them with you guys. So thank you, Stanley, for your question. Thank you all for your questions. I've really enjoyed doing this today and I hope I've given the answers that you were hoping for. And you've learned a little bit more about me and being an author, and maybe one day that's what you'd like to do too. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Have a lovely rest of your day and Easter holidays. And tomorrow there will be a read aloud video. It will be a bedtime story. So I hope you enjoy that, and I'll see you soon for another read aloud. See you soon, guys. Bye, bookworms.